The NFL season is finally here, and in this episode, we're going to get you ready for Week 1 by giving you the latest news, our player rankings by position so you can decide those difficult start-'em, sit-'em decisions, as well as our favorite DFS plays for the week, all coming up now. Hello everyone, I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Gary Kurtzman, and we are the Fantasy Football Consultants. So Eric, for Week 1, let's get right into the news. A few developments this week. Marquise Lee. Ouch.
My namesake.
IR, knee. It's always the knee with receivers, isn't it? What does that mean? First of all, he's on IR. He's out for the year. For Jacksonville, not much from a fantasy perspective. There just aren't any really fantasy relevant receivers other than Marquise Lee. Who's it going to help the most is the question. Most people say that it's Donte Moncrief, probably because 4 years, $16 million. The reality is this. You know what? Look, Moncrief is their steady possession receiver. The need for that isn't affected by Marquise Lee's absence. What's affected by Marquise Lee's absence is moving the ball down the field in chunks. That, my friends, is Keelan Cole. If anybody, it's him who probably gets the bump. You know, the guy who runs the fly patterns, the X pattern. The reality is he does move up in the rankings. Fantasy relevant in the later rounds, meaning close to the last rounds as a flyer.
It's still Jacksonville's passing offense.
That's right. They're still a run-first offense with Leonard Fournette. Darius Geis, here's a bigger one, folks. Darius Geis, it's always the knee again. ACL out for the year. That one hurts.
And of course, all the people want to know,
if you can take advantage of a situation in some way, it's your duty as an American to do it.
So before they can more Darius Geis,
yes.
What's the angle?
Before he's been embalmed, the angle is Adrian Peterson. He's back. Oh man!
Man, I was 5 years ago. I'd take a flamethrower to this place.
And if he was, then he wouldn't have been available on the waiver wire. That tells you something, ladies and gentlemen. Look, I love Adrian Peterson. He's got a great legacy. I'm sorry he's tarnishing it with coming back to the NFL. He tried last year. Don't forget, less than 3.5 yards per carry. That is putrid and awful. And that was last year. I think this year, now a year older. Bottom line is this. He did look good in his one preseason game, but don't get too excited about Adrian Peterson. They do have a couple guys waiting in the ring, Samaje Perine and Robert Kelly, which is why they're starting Adrian Peterson. Yes. There's not a lot of fantasy relevance here. It's going to be by committee. Third downs is Chris Thompson. The whole thing's a mess. Frankly, honestly, stay away from the whole thing. But
not even a late round flyer.
Late round flyer and Adrian Peterson.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I like that because at least at the beginning of the year, maybe you can get a couple of good games out of them.
It's hard to predict which ones those are going to be, but yes. So Ronald Jones III. Here's the final one. Not injured. It just sucks.
And I told you he'd be good, so I have to say.
Yeah, okay, no, he will be.
Yeah,
Eric, he will be. They didn't draft him in the second round for nothing. He's still learning pass protection. He's still learning vision. The latter part is actually a cause for concern. They're starting Peyton Barber down there in Tampa Bay, and that is not a good sign because less than 4 yards per carry does not cut it as an NFL running back. That's Peyton Barber's MO. It's been that way his whole career. Look, Ronald Jones III is worth more than Peyton Barber is. Over the long haul, be patient with him. He will start for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because Peyton Barber just isn't that good. But folks, he needs to improve. He's a rookie, so don't expect too much from him.
Yes. So let's take a look at our rankings, Gary. I want to start at wide receiver. In most leagues, you're starting 3 wide receivers and maybe also an additional flex position, so you might be even put a 4th wide receiver. So as we show you the rankings for the 1 through 10 and 11 through 20, those are easy because, if you have Antonio Brown,
you're going to start him.
Start Antonio Brown. But, we wanted to pick out some people that we think that might might get you thinking about, you might otherwise have on your bench. And my wide receiver to watch out specific for this week is Emmanuel Sanders. I've been preaching Emmanuel Sanders for a while because of the fact that he had such a bad year last year. He was hobbled with the ankle injury. He was hobbled with horrible quarterback play. Now that he's healthy, now that Case Keenum is the quarterback, and now that he's facing Seattle defense. Now, that's so weird. Seattle, usually the ferocious defense. They lost so many players in the secondary. So I think it is. Seattle is ripe to be taken advantage of on the defensive side. Mm-hmm. So I think Emmanuel Sanders is a guy you want to go for.
And look, he's looking like Case Keenum's favorite target in the preseason. So if that continues, look out, Demaryius Thomas owners. Quarterback. Let's shift to quarterback ratings. Again, along the lines of guys who are on the fence to be starting or sitting. Let's go with Phillip Rivers. Currently being drafted as QB 14, and with legitimate good reason. But this week, he gets to face the Kansas City Chiefs. Those same Chiefs that were a below-average defense last year, saved only by Tyreek Hill's return touchdowns. The reality is this. They've been putrid in the preseason. The worst-looking starter unit defense, and it's not close. And they're worse against the pass than they are against the run. Phillip Rivers ought to be able to carve them up. I like him even more because the offense is really good. This should be a shootout. Lots of points. Phillip Rivers is going to have to throw against a terrible pass defense. I like me some Phillip Rivers this week.
For the tight end rankings, the one tight end that you might not have drafted is Jack Doyle. One thing let's be clear about. The number one tight end on the Indianapolis Colts is not Eric Ebron. It is clearly Jack Doyle. They will use sometimes two tight end sets, but anytime there is only one tight end, it's going to be Jack Doyle. If you're looking at his previous production, just expect it to be higher because now Andrew Luck is back. Absolutely. And he'll become a favorite target of a revitalized Andrew Luck.
Absolutely. Andrew Luck is back. I am excited about that. Let's shift to running backs. And for running backs, the person that isn't obvious that you should be starting this week is not even the starting running back for his own team. Dion Lewis. Not even the starting running back. Derrick Henry. I get it, Derrick Henry. Here's a funny thing about the Miami defense. They are among the top teams in one very important category, receptions to running backs. That is all of Dion Lewis's game. Okay, maybe it's not all his game. I've seen him used even in the goal line for New England. Fine. They're going to use Derrick Henry. It's all of his game for Tennessee is, of course, being on the field in third down to get receptions. That is the one thing that Miami excels at letting running backs to do. Folks, this is a no-brainer. I bet you Dion Lewis will not have a better matchup all year than what he has on week 1 against Miami. Be sure to take advantage of it. Let's talk defenses. You got to get a defense in there, and the defense I think you should watch out for a potential big week in week 1 is the New Orleans Saints. Look, they start off at home. They start off against a Tampa Bay team that is weak with a backup starting quarterback. We already chronicled how poor their running game is. I expect Drew Brees and companies to put a lot of points on the board, so Tampa Bay will be in a situation where they will have to come from behind. You're going to see a lot of sacks. You're going to see a lot of turnovers. All great points. Maybe a defensive touchdown. Knock wood and cross your fingers on that. Well, I'll tell you what, that takes you through the rankings and the important sit-em decisions for this week. So, Eric, why don't we segue and give our viewers some flavor of daily fantasy sports, DFS. That's right. So if you play DFS, you want to be paying attention to this. We wanted to come up with what our favorite plays of the week are. So we're not going to fill out a full lineup for you. That's your job. But you're going to have some of your favorites that you like. So pick and choose between some of our favorites, mix it in with your favorite, and hopefully, with a little luck, not Andrew Luck. Maybe Andrew Luck. Well, not this week. You'll do just fine in DFS. So let's first talk about quarterbacks. Absolutely. And again, just to remind, this is about value, not who is going to do the best, but who is the best value as priced by DraftKings and FanDuel. You know, I'm looking at Phillip Rivers. We talked about Phillip Rivers before. He is listed, use DraftKings as an example, as QB7. See, $6,400. Look, he is home to one of the worst defenses in football, one of the best offenses in football. That puppy's going to be a shootout. We talked about that earlier. Love me. I don't understand why he's QB7 pricing. He's going to be one of the top 3. You also got Russell Wilson. Now, this is a DraftKings special. He actually is priced much more correctly on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, this guy's literally priced as QB9. He's QB3 material, and he's listed that way on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, he's QB9. Folks, he was the top fantasy point getter at any position last year. I don't think I need to overthink this. Oh, but by the way, Denver's defense is in the bottom half, so he's also got a relatively easy matchup. On DraftKings, it's Russell Wilson all day long.
Yeah. So you'll see the FanDuel pricing for both of those guys are a little high, but watch out for guys like Case Keenum and Ryan Fitzpatrick, which are on FanDuel, are really cheap. And if you go that route, then you can really build stronger lineups. How about running backs? So I'll actually go over wide receivers then next. So with wide receivers, I am going to we already talked about Emmanuel Sanders, so we like him, but watch out for Chris Hogan, especially on FanDuel. He's at an unbelievably low price of $6,300 on FanDuel. You talk about a shootout. There's no game that has more higher over and under than the New England Houston game. You want to get exposure to that, and you get it with their #1 wide receiver target. I know Gronk is their #1 target overall, but in Chris Hogan at a really reasonable price. So go for Hogan.
Okay, absolutely. Switching to running backs, then, we got a couple of guys here. One, the guy that I actually like the best is Peyton Barber at New Orleans. Now, New Orleans has an incredible pass defense. It's got a reasonable run defense. But why Peyton Barber? Because I don't think that DraftKings and FanDuel realize he's Tampa Bay's starting running back. It's that simple. They're still pricing Ronald Jones II as a starting running back. You get an RB1 and an RB2 price. That, my friends, is a huge discount. Take advantage of that. It's just a complete mispricing on the side's part.
On Peyton Barber, I think one of the concerns some people out there is, you're playing New Orleans, they'll get behind, they won't run as much. But Charles Sims is hurt. Their normal pass-catching pack is hurt. So I think, and Ronald Jones the second, if you think he's been bad running the ball, which he has in preseason, he's been worse catching the ball. So Peyton Barber, don't pick Peyton Manning this year. Peyton Barber is going to have lots of opportunities, even if they get behind.
Yeah, absolutely, because he's going to be the first, second, and third down back. Also, Alex Collins. Alex Collins is probably just outside the top 20 in running backs, but this week he gets Buffalo. We've talked about that already. The reality is Buffalo is just going to be a bad offensive team. The defense is actually pretty good, but they're going to be behind all day long. So many teams, it's going to be run. That's another team that's tough to pass against, by the way. So Alex Collins ought to have a field day on the ground in Baltimore.
And our last favorite DFS play is in defense, and just like you just talked about, it's the Baltimore Ravens. Both FanDuel and DraftKings list the Ravens as their top defense. They're the most expensive one, but you should go ahead and pay up because the other defenses are not very far behind. Spend the extra couple $100. As Gary already said, just imagine who possibly might be Buffalo's starting quarterback because it's the quarterback.
Nathan Peterman or A.J. McCarron. I actually don't even think it matters who it is. That I smell defensive points, people.
Behind the worst offensive line in football in Buffalo.
This side of Seattle.
Yes. Well, I'm a Seahawk fan, so I think we're at least above Buffalo. Anyway, on that note, those are your DFS plays. And Gary, we are just excited for the NFL season to start.
Oh, baby. Week 1. Here we go.
So be sure to check out our other video where we talk all survivor pool picks. In fact, how you can get onto our own viewer contest for free to win valuable prizes, including a $100 gift card. Go to that video to see it. It's on your screen now. And also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We want to hear what you think. And until our next video, we will see you next time.
See you next time.